it might be time for small churches to stop buying Shure products. And look, I say that as a tech guy at a medium-sized church that uses Shure products. But honestly, cheap tech is getting to the point where it might actually be worth buying, especially if you're a smaller church who's really just trying to get into that space. Right here in front of me, I have the PTM 33 system from Phenyx Pro. It's one of their wireless in-ear monitor setups, and honestly, I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about it. Now, you may not have heard of Phenyx Pro, except you have probably seen a bunch of Instagram and Facebook ads from them talking about how they have all these products and at a price that just seems way too good to be true. Well, it does seem too good to be true, but honestly, it's not. These actually kind of pack a punch at a price that is affordable for a lot of churches, especially for what you're getting. With this system in particular, you actually get the base station, this right here, it's rack mountable, first of all, and 4 wireless packs. Not only that, but you get antennas, all of the cables that you need, batteries for the packs, like what? As well as some basic headphones for these. I don't recommend using them, but it's interesting that it comes with them. All for the low price right now of $469.99. That means that each one of these packs essentially costs, what, $120? That's crazy. For some context, if you look at Shure's most basic offering, their PSM 300 system, and specifically the one that has 1 transmitter, 2 receivers, so that they're 2 mono receivers, which is comparable to these, that system is $1,200 today, which means that it's $600 per receiver, essentially. 120, 600, right? We're talking about a system that is 5 times cheaper than the comparable Shure system. And I'm going to give you some more details about this, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's definitely not 5 times worse than the Shure system. And I'm not talking about their top of the line, right? This is Shure's cheapest offering for wireless in-ear monitoring. The most direct comparison to this unit is 5 times more expensive. So let's talk about this unit and why I think it's actually good for small churches on a budget. So again, it is a wireless monitoring system. If you're not familiar, this is for your musicians and vocalists on stage so that they can hear the rest of the band, hear what they're doing, hear a click track, whatever it is, in their ears without having to have a floor monitor, a wedge like that. So that's who this is trying to address. The base unit itself, like I mentioned, is actually a pretty good system. I mean, it's metal, it's robust, it's rack mountable right out of the box. So you can actually install this in your professional rack and be ready to go. On the back, you have all of your inputs and outputs as well as places for whip antennas, which we'll talk about those later and a way to get better signal out of this unit. It's actually a little bit confusing. It looks like these are stereo packs because there's actually a left and right input, but don't let that fool you. These are mono packs. They also have loop outs, so if you needed to run something into this and loop it out somewhere else, you can do that too. But anyways, after you've got that set up in your rack, you have 4 wireless packs. So these are plastic, not the highest quality, and realistically opening this battery door feels like that's not going to last forever. But essentially, once you power these guys on, they immediately sync up with the base station to one of the 4 channels, and it will get the signal from that channel. Each pack has group and channel options, so you can find the frequency that actually works best for you. Which, it's time to talk about maybe one of the first major cons with this system, is the frequency range. Phenyx Pro offers these in 2 different frequency ranges, one in the 900 MHz and one in the 500 MHz band. Now, with most wireless in-ear systems, you can set a specific frequency for any of your receivers. And that's great because in crowded wireless areas, you need to be able to have that granularity in order to make sure that you're not getting interference on your wireless systems. This one's a little bit different, and this is where the budget kind of starts to show. The total frequency band that this operates on is 25 megahertz wide. The problem is, each one of these packs has to be within a certain subsection of that frequency range. So for example, whatever your pack number 1 is, has to be somewhere between 902 and 908 megahertz. Pack number 2 has to be somewhere between 908 and 915 megahertz. Pack 3 is 915 to 921, and pack 4 is 921 to 927. So yeah, you have some wiggle room on what frequency spectrum these operate in, but you can't have all 4 of them, close to 900 megahertz. They have to be spread evenly in that, which means that you are going to lose some flexibility in terms of where these operate in the wireless spectrum. So if you're in a noisy environment at your church and you need to have precise control over where your wireless operates, these may not be good for you. Unless you happen to have that entire frequency spectrum free, in which case, great, you're good to go. But if your church is out in the middle of nowhere and you're not using a lot of wireless and things are pretty open, or if just specifically the 900 to 927 megahertz band is wide open for you, then you're gonna have a fine time with these. So again, this is a limitation in how granular you can get with the wireless control on this. But depending on your particular context, that may not matter at all. Just know that if you are one of those few where your bands are kind of narrow and you have to be pretty picky, this may not be the option. Another problem with the frequency spectrum that you have is that it's going to be pretty tough to get more than 4 of these units in a particular area. You could definitely buy 2 of these systems and then within each one of the slotted bands, put them at different frequencies. You might have an okay time with that, but because your frequency range is so limited, you might struggle. Now, if you're okay with people sharing mixes, you can pair any number of packs to a given transmitter frequency, so you could have duplicate mixes going out, but that's not usually something that people really want to do. So if you need more than 4 packs, again, this may not be the system for you based on the limited frequency band. But anyways, now that we've got them connected, let's talk about how they actually work. Again, you've got a volume control here on the pack, and these get plenty loud. And not only that, but they get loud at actually a good quality. I compared them to our PSM 300s that we use at our church, and I also asked my buddy Caleb to switch back and forth between them and tell me what he could hear. When I just sat with them totally silent, just hearing the signal, these definitely had a little bit more of a buzz in them compared to the Shure units. But realistically, once there was any kind of audio coming through them, it was not noticeable at all. It made completely no difference. So a little bit higher of a noise floor, but once anything was playing, that all completely faded into the background and you didn't notice any difference. Apart from that, I would say the audio quality differed slightly, but only because I was comparing it side by side. If I just had these, I don't think I would even notice. My buddy Caleb, who goes and plays at a lot of different churches using a lot of different systems, tried him out and said he would be totally happy with this type of wireless signal coming to him. He said there was maybe a slightly different frequency response, but nothing that couldn't be EQ'd out at the board if you really cared that much. Otherwise, they honestly worked pretty fine right out of the box. As far as battery life goes, Phenyx Pro rates these at about 6 hours per set of batteries. I didn't test that directly, but I didn't have any problems running out with them. And honestly, at 6 hours, that's going to last you a whole Sunday morning, so I think that's pretty reasonable. You can also obviously just swap out batteries as they start to die. I mentioned the plastic construction earlier and the metal clip that you have on here. While it's not great that these are plastic, the PSM 300 units that I'm comparing it to are also plastic construction, and we've broken some of those by people dropping them accidentally. So realistically, you're facing the same problems with this as you are with that system that costs 5 times as much. Another thing you're not getting with this is any kind of network control or any kind of app that you can run to set frequencies. This is about as dumb as it gets. Everything has to be controlled directly on the device. But again, that PSM 300 system that I'm talking about, same deal there. All of your changes need to be done on the actual transmitter units themselves. So we're still comparing directly to that unit and we're still coming out tied with it, but for 5 times cheaper. Now, I mentioned that it has spots for your antennas on the back, and it comes with little whip antennas that you can plug into this. But unless this is sitting directly on your stage a few feet away from your vocalist, you're not really going to have a lot of luck with those. Realistically, you're going to want to set this back in your rack in a room or off to the side of your stage or in your tech booth or wherever, and those things are really not going to work all that well. They're going to get covered up, they're going to be behind walls, and you're going to start having dropouts. And this is going to be true of any wireless system if you're really just using those little whip antennas. They're not really made to be stacked on top of each other or hidden behind walls. And that's where this actually comes in. So this is Phenyx Pro's antenna combiner, the PAS227X. What a great name. But anyway, it's their antenna combiner and antenna. And so what this actually does is it takes the antenna feeds from multiple units, passes them into this, and combines it into one signal and one antenna. And you can place this antenna on your stage or in the back near your tech booth or wherever you need to get much better range and to combine multiple systems into one. So you no longer have a bunch of different little whip antennas hanging around. Instead, you have one beefy antenna that you can use anywhere. Now, this package right here can combine up to 4 different antennas, and it can do all of that for the price of $333. So for those of you who are keeping track, That puts this entire system of 4 packs and an antenna that can go hundreds of feet at just over $800 total. If you're keeping score, that's still only 2/3 the price of 2 Shure packs without a good antenna. And if you wanted to buy an antenna combiner and good antenna from Shure, you're going to be paying close to another $1,100. Again, for similar functionality as this is giving you. You can see how this money is starting to add up and really becoming a great option for churches on a budget. One of the great things too is that this unit is not specific to Phenyx Pro. As long as you're trying to plug in antennas from other IEM units and they have normal BNC connectors, you can plug them into the back of this guy and straight into this antenna and use this to amplify your signal. So if you're in a situation where maybe you already have the Shure units, but you're having dropouts because you're using those whip antennas, or you need to use those because you have a more limited frequency range that you need to work with and cram them in at certain specific places, well, great. You can get the Shure units rather than these, and you can still buy the antenna combiner from Phenyx Pro and still amplify that system much better and on a much better budget than you could with the corresponding Shure units. I tested this out and I was able to walk all the way down into the basement of our church, hundreds of feet away through brick walls and doors before my signal saw any kind of degradation. And realistically, in a real environment, you're putting this antenna on your stage or in your tech booth pointed directly at your stage with nothing in between. So you can rest assured this is going to work even in your more complex environments. And it's going to do that at a fraction of the cost of the competition. Seriously, I love these wireless units, but honestly, this antenna combiner is maybe the more appealing unit of the two because it can work with anything. So again, looking at these systems, they have their limitations. Don't get me wrong. I don't know how they're going to hold up over years. We've had our Shure units for, 10 years now or something, and they're still going strong. Are these going to last 10 years? Honestly, I don't know. But again, at 1/5 the price, when we're just talking about the packs themselves, it kind of feels like it's worth it, especially if you're a smaller church and you don't have 5 times the amount of money. So if you're in a position where you really want to try out some wireless packs, for less than $500, getting 4 packs to try out, even if they break in a couple of years, I think that $500 went pretty far towards getting you where you needed to go. And it's enabling something that you could not do for $500. You can't even get 1 pack for $500 from those leading brands. So it starts to become a question to ask yourself of, yeah, we could try to save up, but are we getting anything that we can't get with this? And is that even a good use of our resources, even if we could save up and afford it? I'm not trying to be cheap, right? I know the name of this channel is Budget Church Live Streaming, but really that's all about spending our money wisely. And I know it's really easy to look at everybody else doing things on Instagram or in other churches or wherever, and they're always using Shure, they're always using Sennheiser, they're always using whoever. But realistically, think about what you and your church need. If you just need a couple wireless packs and you're new to wireless, seriously, pick one of these up. Try it out. See if it works for you. We don't need to be flashy. We just need tools that will do the job for us. And sometimes that means buying the cheap thing because it does what we need it to do. And sometimes it's buying the cheap thing for a season while you're growing. You're a church plant in a small building and you just need a couple wireless packs and you don't have very much money. Great. Buy this and maybe it lasts you 2 years until you've grown and now you do have money for the better things. Whatever it is, I just want to make sure that you know what options are out there and that you're able to seriously consider them against the competition and not just be convinced that you have to buy XYZ because they are the industry standard. Technology is evolving, it's getting better, and honestly, these things, as cheap as they are, try them out. I highly recommend these. And if you're interested in other products, they also make wireless microphones, which I tried out and was also pleasantly surprised with. I'll leave a link to that video as well so you can go check it out. Seriously, I may sound passionate about this, which may sound crazy for a brand like Phenyx Pro that you've never heard of, but it's not even about the brand. It's about the mindset. It's about this culture shift that we need to approach of we don't need to buy the flashiest gear. We need to buy the gear that lets us accomplish our goal of sharing the gospel with others. And honestly, I think that these do that. Drop me a line down in the comments if you want to chat more about this, or if you've used these units and you like them, or even if you hate them. Let's talk, let's share info, and let's make sure other people are informed to be able to do the right thing as well. Until next time.